Thank you so much. Yes, Michelle, thanks for joining. Um, I was saying to Shay that I'm a little nervous only because this presentation is usually better when done in person, because there is a little bit of an interactive segment at the end. But feel free to ask any questions if you have. If I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer for you. But I hope that you enjoy this presentation. My name is Melissa Stewart. I'm one of the speech language pathologists for the division, and this presentation is kind of a mash of two presentations we've done in the past. One by Kate Childs, who was a psychologist who used to work for the division, and then one that the speech language pathologist did, kind of leaning more towards screen time and literacy and how important that interaction is. So welcome. I wanted to explore and take the opportunity to talk about screen time technology and how it can affect early childhood development and your little ones at home. There is a handout available online. So if you don't have it now to refer to, it kind of brings this whole presentation together in a few pages. So you might want to check that out after the presentation. I do want to preface this presentation by saying that it's not meant to judge in any way. It's just meant to give some information on the research and what does it say about the correlation between screen time and early childhood development and possibly any delays that might come from it. We all have screen time. It's pretty much impossible these days. It's unavoidable to have screen time. So I just want to talk about how can it best be used and be more effective and advantageous for our kids and to help little ones learn from home. Next slide, please. So first, what counts as screen time? Now, I'm going to date myself, but when I grew up, we had one phone, which was on the wall in the kitchen, and we had one TV, which was in the living room. And when it was TV time in our home, we all had to agree on what we wanted to watch. I attribute my love for Star Trek to my father, because if that was on TV, that's what we were watching. And to this day, if I'm sick, I always have the urge to watch Price is Right, because if we were home from school, that's what my mother watched at noon time. And I still kind of get that nostalgia. That's what I want to watch if I'm ever homesick. I tell those two stories for two reasons. One, technology and the number of screens we have available today, as you see on your screen, the TV, the iPad, the laptop, the gaming system, the phone, has exploded over the last decades. And even when we've done this presentation, which would have been 5 years ago, I'm sure the numbers right now are even a little bit higher than what I'm going to say. And they're pretty high from what I think, but I think they're a little bit higher. And number two, monkey see, monkey do. So what we do as adults in our home when it comes to technology and screen time is going to reflect on our child's behavior and how they view technology and how they use it as well, and later on in life. Next slide, please. And you can click it a couple times and bring that up. Perfect. So as we know, the world is highly digital and it's connected. Now, we only had 2 devices in my home growing up, but now among families with children age 8 and under, it has increased 5-fold since, I would say, a decade ago. Such things as iPads, tablets. Each kid usually has one, whether it's a gaming system, TVs in every room now, and even a phone, possibly, depending on how old your children are. 90% of households now have an internet connection. I don't know how old anybody is who's listening, but I remember with the old wireless dial-up internet with that weird sound, and that definitely limited the amount of time we spent online because it was so aggravating trying to connect to the internet. But now it's just a click of a button and at our fingertips. Our children these days don't have to wait for it anymore like we used to. And 61% engage in social media every day. 72% of children age 8 and under have used a mobile device at some point in their lives, such as playing games and videos. And today, 30% of children age 2 and under have used a mobile device for media, compared to 10 years ago. It was a lot lower, and 10 year and over the decade, it has definitely increased. The percentage of children who use mobile devices on a daily basis, at least once per day or more, has more than doubled from 8% to 17% in our short little time that we've had internet access. Next slide, please. All right. This is just some recommendations for the American Academy of Pediatrics. They're recommending that children under the age of 18 months, we should avoid screen time other than video chatting, which is imperative. If you have family members that live away, you want to keep that connection. So they don't count video chatting, but just any type of screen time in general. Ages 2 and 5, they recommend 1 hour per day of high quality programming, and ages 6 and older, trying to limit the screen time to less than 2 hours a day and balance their time that's not in school with healthy behaviors that will help adequate sleep and physical activity. And when we talk about high quality programming, we're talking about is it considered high quality programming is considered warm and engaging? It's repetitive. It has a slow presentation, and it has age appropriate content. And the exception to the rule is communication devices for those children who need to use technology for communication, or using it, like we said, for connection when we want to talk to family members that might not be right with us. Next slide, please. I don't know if I had a video that was going to play, and I can just kind of preface it with I don't think it loaded up when we switched the slides over to Google Slides, but it was, I'm hoping that if maybe you guys, if it's posted online under my presentation, you'll be able to see. It was a short clip of Will Ferrell, funny guy, and it was a campaign by Common Sense Media that was looking at this idea of bringing back dinner time without technology. And research suggests that almost 47% of families report using mobile phones at the dinner table. So again, if you want to go back and look, because I think my slides are uploaded on to the website. It's a very funny video of him being very distracted by his cell phone and his family saying a lot of interesting things to him to see if he's paying attention, and of course he isn't.
I can pull it up for you, Melissa, if you like.
Sure. Wasn't sure if we lost it or not. Michelle, I'm hoping you enjoy it. I'm going to say that this is not a video for children. So if you have any children around, maybe you can send them away. But I do find this a commercial very funny. And it's just poking fun at, you know, how the dinner time has shaped itself from the time where families used to sit down and talk about their day to possibly everybody being on a device.
I have it. Just one sec. Sorry.
And Michelle, you can let us know if you can't hear the video, but I'm hoping you'll be able to hear it.
What was the campaign called again?
It's campaign by Common Sense Media. It was a little while ago, and I think that even showed like during the Super Bowl as well, like a couple years ago. But they put out some thought-provoking little clips and little commercials about family time and how to shape it over, how it's changed over the years. And if you can't get a shade, it's okay. I just found it really funny.
I think I have it. Just one sec.
Sure.
I had it on the slide, so I don't know what happened, but.
There we go. Oh, you're so smart.
Oh, it's so nice to all be sitting down together. You can tell me something they did today.
I drew a horsey.
Good for you, son.
I started smoking.
I love you too, sweetheart.
I'm selling bongs out of our minivan.
I got a tramp stamp.
I'm getting implants.
I'm dating your brother.
Uh-huh.
I'm cooking meth in the basement.
Great idea, kiddo. That's why you're so popular at school.
Were you able to hear that, Michelle?
Yes, I was.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just think it was a funny way just to show that how much the dinner time has changed over the years. And they were trying to get back the idea of let's put the phones down, let's bring dinner time back to just what it phone free time, put them in the basket, and getting back to talking about how your day was and working through those problems that maybe the kids had at school that day. All right, I'm ready to bring it back, Shane. We'll get rolling. Perfect, and we can go for the next slide. Thank you. This slide just talks about the overuse. So we talked about on the last slide, the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics on what they recommended of how much screen time kids should get a day. And it is probably way less than what they actually get. Canadian research on average screen times per day suggests that 24 months old children are getting about 2.5 hours a day. At 36 months, 3.6 hours. At 60 months, 1.6 hours. Research also suggests, as you can see on the screen, 80% is exceeding at 24 months, and 95% exceeds the recommendations that have been given at 36 months of age. 90% of families are living in a home, like I've already talked to, with at least one internet-connected device, and parents are using devices on average of 3.5 hours a day, and their children on average are 2.5 hours a day. And families, and even just not being on devices, like sitting down and watching TV, families are also frequently, texting, checking social media, and surfing the net during family time, like we just saw in that video. All right, next slide, please. All right, so factors contribute to overuse. So parents, as I said in the previous slide, are using devices on average of 3.5 hours a day. The number of children in the household contributes to the use of the devices and how long children might be on devices. Income of families, a single family home versus a home with lots of children. Childcare in the home, the age of the children makes a big deal. And if you want to click that slide button for me, Shay, and we'll bring up the last one. And parent screen time. So research has said that the biggest contributor to what children use at home is what the parents use for screen time. Research shows too that there is an increase in conflict and hostility between parents and children with increasing use of devices. Oftentimes we might think I'm going to give my device, trying to create the opposite effect, that I'm trying to give the device to reduce conflict or a behavior, when in fact it might increase it later on instead of decreasing it. Next slide, please. Screen time and delays. Around 30% of children in Alberta are considered vulnerable before starting school, and screen time is considered one of the culprits for this. Research has shown an increase in the correlation between screen time and delay in development. They don't know exactly how it directly affects the development, but they know that there's a correlation between it. The first idea, as you can see on the left, they call direct effects, which is digital inferencing. So things like the bright lights, highly reinforcing gameplay, and repetitive rewards is somehow compromising development. And then on the right, something they call missed opportunities. So it suggests that children are watching screens. When they're watching screens, they're missing out on other opportunities to practice development, whether that be walking and talking, running, because they're sitting a lot. Every additional hour of screen time corresponds to a risk in meeting developmental milestones. And also the biggest part is that they're missing the interaction and connection between family members in the home. Next slide, please. Another reason that they're thinking that it has an effect on development is what they're calling displacement theory. And what is it? Is what is the screen time replacing? So time spent on screens is time not spent, as we talked about a little bit already, on other important developmental tasks related to socio-emotional, motor development, and communication skills. Research suggests screen time cuts into that time that otherwise would be spent on other things. Some research has shown that preschool kids who get too much screen time on video games or internet-related devices and other visual mediums are among those who show delays in learning by the time they enter school at the age of 5. And there's a quote that we like by Dr. Sherry Madigan that says, and I know you could read it, but I do like this quote. We also know that a lot of positive stimulation that helps kids with their physical and cognitive development comes from the interactions with caregivers. When they're in front of screens, these important parent-child interactions aren't happening, and this can cause the correlation or derail a child's development. Next slide, please. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. This is just talking about the recommendations of how much sleep as a child goes from 0 to 18 years that's required. And I guess the correlation of, we know that if they're not napping or if they're on screens a lot, or even at nighttime, especially as kids get older, if there are any TVs or devices in their bedroom that may interrupt sleep, or they might get up and start playing or whatever, has an impact on their sleep. Next slide, please. Yeah, the stimulation from these devices. Devices can cause overstimulation. At night, the lights that might come, I know myself that I do have my phone by my bed and I use it as my alarm, but if I get, which I have to have my sound on, so if I get a notification, it does wake me up from sleep. Sometimes I can avoid that urge, maybe the addiction to check it out, and so that's definitely disrupting my sleep, so it definitely disrupts theirs. And there's also research that suggests that blue light that comes from the phone can also disrupt melatonin production, which can lead to poor sleep for kids. Next slide, please. I won't spend a lot of time on this either. Physical activity recommendations. So for 0 to 4 years, they're recommending 180 minutes, at least 60 as energetic play and not restrained. So not sitting down, watching TV, or being on a device for more than 1 hour at a time. Ages 5 to 17 years, at least 60 minutes a day of moderate to vigorous physical activity. Excuse me. And they shouldn't be sitting for long, extended periods of time. And 18 to 64 years, at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity. Muscle and bone strengthening activities at least 2 days a week. And I think what they're getting at with this one is that screen time, I guess you can move to the next slide. Screen time, oh, can you go back? Thank you. Screen time, unless used as a movement break, is usually inactive and involves sitting around. So at school, they're really good if we use screens, and I'll get into the literacy part in a bit, but our kids love using and watching the screen for a movement break. And so it does get them up and it gets them moving. So it is using technology in a way that will help them develop instead of stagnate their development. Health problems related to glucose and blood pressure and weight management for not moving around a lot. And research shows a correlation between an increase in screen time per week and an increase in BMI index for kids. Next slide, please. How are we doing on time, Shay? 1. Okay, perfect.
Good.
Screen time. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say good.
Okay, good. Screen time and literacy. When interacting on a touch screen, pointing to words is a way for children to build their knowledge and concept of print. There are advantages and disadvantages for using ebooks over paper books. Finger tracking and pointing to words, naming and sounding out letters are all ways to build knowledge of print while interacting with a touch screen. The disadvantage is that if a parent does not interact while the child's watching or listening to the ebook, the child learns less. The interactive features of an ebook might be distracting, and they might not understand the story as much, and they do not learn book handling book handling skills as readily if using paper books. But a good advantage is that children can use these ebook more dependently. So if you think of those single parent homes, or if, you know, it's a better option to sit down and if mom's cooking supper, listen to this book while instead of watching TV while I do that. So it can be enjoyed independently by children. And on average, a child will interact with an ebook longer than a paper book if their parents aren't there. So there are advantages to the ebooks. It's just kind of how they're used and how you interact with your child when you use it that makes it advantageous. Okay, next slide. So when we're using technology, we just need to ask ourselves, is it solitary? Is it something that I can sit down with my child with and play with them? Is it age appropriate? Is there a positive message when they're watching TV in the program or playing a game? Is it at an appropriate speed? I know that some of the videos the kids love to use, like Danny Go, there's an option on our smart boards, and I'm sure on your computers as well, not so much on the TV, but you can slow down the rate in which the dances are being played or that the song is going, so the kids can better able follow along and copy what's happening, so it's not so fast that it's going over their head. Isn't an experience that we can only have on a screen. So if you think about, is this an interaction that I can have elsewhere, whether it be with a book, a paper book, or outside, for example, or in the car? Were educators involved in developing it? And how can I take this learning off screen when it's finished? So there's nothing bad about learning something online, but once learned online, it should be taken offline. And how can I expand what they're learning online after it's finished? Okay, next question, or next slide, please. So the take home before we get into the interactive portion is thinking about the quality of programming, needing to ask ourselves, how was the program developed, the message or the content, who is the app or TV show targeting, and how it's delivered and how the content is being viewed off screen, like in real life. How can we relate it back to their real life experience? Co-viewing and interaction, me engaging your child and not allowing passive consumption. So it takes the learning off screen and makes the media more useful and better understood. Healthy family media use. Making a family media plan. I've seen some things online that suggest, you know, making a plan for your family, having device-free time, like dinners, for example, or bedrooms, not having TVs or phones in the bedroom, having family charging areas so that the phones have to go there at a certain time, and then you have free device time. Let's see. And communicating guidelines and rules about media to other caregivers. So if you don't allow your child to have the TV on, for example, at nighttime, just making sure that babysitters and grandparents know that rule as well, so there's consistency. And one of the most important things to consider is, what is the screen time replacing? What is time spent on the device, passively consuming media being taken away from, like being outdoors, helping mom cook supper, looking at books, playing with friends, and playing with siblings outside. All right, next slide. Now, Michelle, you can let me know if you feel comfortable interacting with this portion, but it's just kind of a recap of some of the things we talked about in like a true or false or multiple choice question. And some information will be new, but hopefully it's just a review of what we talked about. All right, next slide. True or false? All screen time is detrimental to early learning. Do you feel comfortable in answering? And that's okay if not.
I'm comfortable in answering. I think that's false, isn't it?
It is false. Although children learn best through hands-on exploration, especially for most young children. Children are exposed to screen media at a very young age and can learn from these experiences. So like I said, in pre-K, those smart boards are used to show stories while the teacher asks them questions, and, you know, for those movement breaks. So it can be used for early learning too. Next question. Oh, well, there was the answer, but I think you already know the answer anyways. True or false? Children aren't impacted by TV that plays in the background.
That's false.
Yeah, studies show that background TV interferes with children's play and learning. I know for myself that background noise doesn't help me concentrate at all. And exposure to TV not designed for young children, even in the background, is associated with language development, cognitive and executive functioning difficulties. It can have a negative impact on language development because that gives adults less input and it's quieter than with no background noise on at all. So you're right. Next question. True or false? TV at bedtime does not help lull children to sleep. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm just having.
That's okay. You have a little one there with you, joining along, listening too. That's true. So studies have shown that viewing TV within 2 hours of bedtime can make it harder for children to fall asleep. And if I think of myself and how if I get on my phone before bed instead of just tucking it away, I can kind of get into that scrolling mode, and then next thing I know, I'm an hour past when I was supposed to go to bed, and it just definitely makes me tired. So if we can think of children, it definitely does not help lull them to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. True or false? Parental cell phone use does not affect children's behavior.
That's false.
Definitely. Recent studies that involved observing families at fast food restaurants found that 40% out of 55 parents used a mobile device during the meal. And the longer their parents were on the device, the more the children acted at the restaurant. I can even think, I don't have children myself, but I do have pets. And for some reason, when I get on the phone or something, that's when my dog decides to either wants to play or starts barking. So that's my personal experience with being on the phone with children. The next question, true or false? The more interactive features, bells and whistles an ebook has creates a better experience for the child. That one is false.
Yeah.
A study involving ebooks showed that the more features something had, it interfered with the child's ability to really engage with the story. So even though ebooks can be useful tools, it's important that children focus on the story and not the actual technology that's behind it, but the actual story.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. True or false? Apps are just for playing games and entertainment. This is a tricky one.
It is tricky.
A lot of us use apps, or I do as well, for playing games and entertainment. But that one's false. So apps can be used for learning,
Yeah.
not just gaming. If you choose the appropriate app and play together with your child, learning can definitely occur for sure. Next slide. All right, we're on to the tricky portion of the interaction. What percentage of children own their own mobile devices by age 4, do you think? 25%, 50%, 75%, or 95%?
I want to say 25%, and I hope it's that low.
I would hope that actually it's 75%. Almost all children today are using technology and apps before their first birthday. And I was babysitting my grandson. I remember when he was 3 years old, and I was trying to figure out how to do something. I think it was with the VCR or something, and he went up, put it in, did something to it, and it was playing, and I went, he was able to figure it out before I could. By 2 years, their use of devices equal time spent on watching TV, and by 3 and 4 years of age, many children are using these devices without help. And they might be able to multimedia tasks like going between TV, switching between different shows. And again, like I said, going from the TV to a DVD or something like that, that they know how to use the technology better than some of us do.
Oh, yeah.
Next question. Should children use only non-tech options for learning?
Um, no, I thought that technology has some
Has
use.
its time and place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, technology is encouraged in addition to traditional learning methods as a tool. So technology can always be used as an added tool, and children love technology, and so it does bring, as it said with ebooks, the children's attention lasts a little bit longer when technology is around. And now with more AI options, learning and research, when you think of AI options now, the learning and research, what the future will look like for children, even 5 years from now, is going to look a lot different than when we were in school.
Mhm.
Again, dating myself, when we did a research project, we had the books of encyclopedia, which I don't even know if they exist anymore. But yeah, so the future is going to look a lot different for children in school and how they are going to use it towards their learning.
Mhm.
Okay, next question. How could you use a favorite TV character to help your child make a connection between the screen and the real world? Have you ever did that, use a TV character to help you with your child?
No, I haven't.
Okay. We use this in school quite often, that if we have a child that's having a difficult time, using something with their parents, like, you know what, they really love, when we did this presentation 5 years ago, we talked about Elmo and another character, which a lot of kids don't know anymore. So I changed the example to like Bluey or Paw Patrol. So we kind of used them as an example of, when you got frustrated with this puzzle because it was really hard, like, what does Bluey do when she gets frustrated? Or what does Marshall learn not to grab and share his toys, and now it's your turn to share and be friends like Marshall. Using your child's favorite characters to kind of help shape their behavior.
Okay.
Yeah. Can electronic media use it's definitely Friday today. Can electronic media use affect development?
Yes.
Yes, of course. And 4 different ways. You can keep clicking until we get down to number 4, Shay. So yes, less interaction with parents definitely affects development, health consequences because of less movement, and less time spent on reading books in general, and language development, that back and forth interaction with caregivers. Studies suggest that the more TV children watch, the more risk they are for delayed language development. One study showed that children who watch TV under 12 months of age and who watch TV more than 2 hours per day were about 6 times more likely to develop a language delay than children who watched TV after 12 months or not as much TV. And another study found that infants age 8 to 16 months of age, each hour per day of viewing baby DVDs or videos was associated with a significant decrease on test of vocabulary development. But the key is, so watching those DVDs aren't necessarily bad, but it's being there to have that interaction back and forth with your child to talk about it as they're watching it.
Yeah.
Next question. What are 2 important qualities to look for when choosing an app to maximize your child's learning? We talked about it a little bit, but this is a little bit of a different question too. What would you look for in an app if you were looking for a learning app? What do you think?
Something educational and I guess interactive.
And that's the biggest, thank you, Michelle. And that's what I want to nail home today too. Yeah, is the content relatable and developmentally appropriate? And does it encourage social interaction and not social isolation? Like something the child wants to play like by themselves.
Yeah.
Next question. What is guided access?
Oh, that's locking in the screen so that they
That's right.
can't like switch apps.
Right. Yeah, it's a way to lock your home button on your device so children cannot leave the current screen. And
Mhm.
so, as I mentioned before, children are usually more proficient with technology than some adults, and they quickly learn how to navigate their favorite apps. So going in and like, let's say, you start out with the educational apps, and next you go back to check, and they're watching YouTube or something.
Yeah.
It's to prevent distractions, and we sometimes use guided access to lock some students like communication devices so that
Yeah.
they use one device for game playing and educational apps, and so that way their communication device is strictly for communication, and they can't get out of that mode and go in to play games at the same time.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good tip to have and a good trick to use.
Yeah.
Can children learn language by passively watching media? A tricky one too.
That is tricky. I want to say they don't learn as much as they would if they were interacting.
Yeah, of course. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, passive video presentations do not lead to language learning in infants or young children.
Mhm.
Like you said, it's the two-way interaction between you and your child that helps him or her develop their language skills and literacy skills. Can parents support their child's language and literacy using ebooks?
Yes.
Yes. I am a fan of ebooks, especially if you for children who have maybe learning difficulties. So yes, while sharing books, interact with your child. Take your time. While printed books provide children with a lot of time, digital media kind of speeds it up the pace a little bit, especially if it's reading to the child.
Hmm.
And then when using an ebook, by taking your time too, you can stop the story and give it a chance to have discussions or ask your child questions to make sure that they're understanding what they're listening to while you're reading it. And then it also lets your child know that they don't have to rush through the activity. Of course, that back and forth interaction and conversation, instead of reading a book from the beginning to end without stopping, you can have the time to interact, back and forth. And talk about the characters, and then thinking deeply about the stories. Connect the story to their own experiences. Help your child connect events that of stories that happened to them. So, for example, yeah, she's visiting her grandmother in the hospital. Do you remember when we visited Nana when she was sick? So always bringing back those stories. And if you bring it back to something that's personally connected to them, that they're better able to understand and remember what happened in the story.
Okay. Yeah.
What does the doc say? We mentioned a couple of these. How much screen time is recommended for children under the 2 years of age?
None.
None, that's right. It is difficult to pinpoint at exactly like what age children can benefit from technology, but current research suggests that high quality programs have educational benefits for children who are over 2 years of age. And I mean, is that realistic in today's age to say none? No. It's just not realistic, but this is just what the docs suggest, that if you can do no screen time and have that back and forth interaction, the less of it, the better.
Okay.
How much screen time is recommended for children between 2 and 5 years of age?
Is it 1 hour?
It is 1 hour. 1 hour of high quality programs and apps designed for children. And it's recommended that if you can, watch the program with your child so you can explain to them what's happening if they don't understand what they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
On average, how many hours in a week do children between 2 to 5 years of age watch TV, do you think?
Well, I want to assume it's pretty high. Leaning more towards D. So
Yeah.
20.
Yeah, it's 20 hours. Recommendation by doctors is that children do not have TVs in their bedroom. That sometimes the high number is attributed to having TVs in the bedroom, but
Yeah.
it is quite high for children aged 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
When does a child's brain develop the most?
Between 0 and 5.
That's right. The brain finishes developing in the mid to late 20s, but the frontal lobe and the part responsible for decision making is the last to mature. But from birth to 5 years, a child's brain develops more and more rapidly than any other time in life. And while genetics play a significant role, research has made clear that the quality of a child's experiences between 0 and 5 years of age, positive or negative, helps shape how their brain develops.
Mhm.
What is the key to using technology with young children?
High quality, educational, and interacting.
That is what I'd say is the biggest key. Interaction is the key. And of course, you want all those other things as well. But research shows that children learn language and literacy skills best during natural, fun interactions with their parents or people, the most important people in their lives. Whether cooking breakfast or looking up an app, the key is engaging and interacting together, especially about things that interest them. What does the doc say about has parenting now this is an interesting question. Has parenting changed with the digital world, do you think?
Yes.
And that was my first answer as well. And then I went and did research. So most doctors are saying no. Well, parenting itself has not changed. You still want to play with them. Set limits. Children need and expect them, whether it's online or offline. So whether it's in the real world or the virtual world, teach kindness and be involved and know their friends and where they're going, especially when the child gets older. Media is just another environment. So children do the same things they always have done, but now it's kind of moved to the virtual world and instead of always in the real world. So like any other environment, media can have a positive and negative effect. So always know what your children are and have your limits when it comes to the digital world too. Keep going, Shay. We're almost there. You have been a good sport, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You've made this presentation a lot more fun for me. Last one. A parent sits with their child and encourages them to say the letter sounds aloud while tracing the letter on a touch screen. Is this considered a good interaction, do you think?
Yes.
Yes, the parent is involved and can provide positive encouragement, answer questions, provide feedback, and assist the child to extend their learning. So again, I don't want it to make it seem like this presentation was saying that media or screens are the devil, but the key to this whole thing is the interaction between you and your child and helping them understand what they're watching. And a lot of learning can come from it as well. And the last couple of slides are just some resources that are available. And if you ever do want to go back, I think the slides are posted on the website as well, along with like a little handout if you would like. And if you have any questions, Michelle?
I
I know.
Any questions?
Yeah, that was like a whirlwind hour. But if you ever have any questions, please reach out. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this talk.
Oh, thank you for doing that.